love is not everything in life. What if one day you are abandoned? Don't you think Kiraat has countless options and can always choose another path? If that day comes, if you still feel satisfied with the present, then be careful, so you don't fall into an empty future. Tatap left those cruel words like a heavy stone pressing down on her shoulders. He struck right at Bonita's most sensitive weakness. If this were a boxing ring, that punch would have been a knockout. Don't listen to him. So, what if there are other options? Kiraat chose her. The young woman bit her lip, shook her head, and muttered to herself. Bonita admitted that she was genuinely shaken by those words. Who wouldn't be afraid of being left alone? Because right now, Kiraat wasn't just joy or happiness. She was almost everything to Bonita. If she looked closely, she would realize that she truly had nothing that belonged to herself, just as Tatap had said. Almost everything. If one day she were no longer loved, it would be like a little puppy lost at a busy intersection, not knowing where to go or which direction to turn, because Kiraat had influenced her life so profoundly that she couldn't find her own path. Yet, when trying to interpret Tatap's words, Bonita still didn't know what to do next. Her body went numb, and her breathing faltered. When she finally managed to piece together a few thoughts in her mind, it was like the final piece of a jigsaw puzzle fitting perfectly. She didn't even know how her small body had unconsciously walked back to her desk. People passed by busily, but the young woman remained motionless. Just thinking about the gaze of the person she once respected, in a dark corner, now made her stomach twist with nausea, and all she wanted was to vomit. She once thought she could escape the leering gazes, those who looked at her like an object, like something to satisfy desire. But maybe she had been wrong. Because people like that, even if they no longer gather in decadent places as before, now still blend into everyday life, making it impossible to tell who is who. Tatap made her feel that way. He made her feel inferior, unequal. He made her feel she was being looked at with contempt. Moreover, the young woman felt that Tatap was belittling her love, thinking she loved Kiraat for power and money. Bonita did not deny that being loved by Kiraat had brought her a more comfortable life. She had the chance to experience, to explore her own path in life. And that was the path she loved, but that didn't mean her love wasn't real. She didn't love Kiraat for those things. She loved Kiraat because Kiraat made her feel loved. Kiraat gave her a sense of home, a place she could always return to. The sounds around her, the chatter, the orders echoing in her head, didn't register with Bonita. At that moment, she was lost in a chaotic stream of thoughts, so frightened that she bit her lip until it bled. She only realized it when her phone vibrated, demanding her attention. And, of course, the caller was the person she considered her whole home. The call came at the perfect moment, as if Kiraat knew exactly what was happening. And, before she could do anything, a can of her favorite drink was placed on the table. The tall, lean in turn, playing his undercover role, smiled faintly at her before quickly saying a few words to ease the suspicion of those around him. "This is the bubble tea you asked me to buy." A lie. Bonita had never asked him to buy anything, and he usually blended into the crowd, trying not to draw attention. But today he had decided to come and step inside. And Kiraat also called. Two events happening at once. There was no way it was a coincidence. I reported that something unusual was happening, so the boss will personally pick you up at noon. As for the envelope you just threw away, I advise you to take it back and keep it with you. The young man spoke softly and quickly, but Bonita heard every word clearly. His face still smiled as if nothing had happened, as if he were just a senior asking a junior to buy a drink, like anyone else in the office. The young woman glanced at the envelope she had thrown earlier and let out a soft sigh. He was right. Keeping it was more useful than discarding it. After tucking it into her bag, she pressed to accept the call from her lover, and with just a brief word from Kiraat, all the fear trembling in her heart instantly calmed. Queen. Her voice trembled. Perhaps Kiraat had sensed how unstable her emotions were. It's okay, don't be afraid. I'll come pick you up. How did you know? Because I know who that person is. I can follow his every move.
What did she mean by that?
Queen means. Yes, it's the person you met recently. The more Bonita heard Kiraat's confirmation, the more she shivered. She had never expected this before. So, what exactly did a boss like Tatap think of her? A calm, easygoing person who treated her no differently from other employees. Only when she started showing outstanding achievements did his attitude change. But we still need more evidence. The fact that he is a stalker, as before, is not enough for serious charges. He could escape and continue causing trouble because the police would assume he hasn't truly committed a crime. Kiraat spoke seriously over the phone. Trust that even though she could act like a free-spirited seeker of justice, not everyone can stand above the law. And she herself didn't want to act like the mafia unless absolutely necessary. The best approach was to find a way to punish him according to the law. The crowd might hurt him briefly, but the law could put him in prison for almost a lifetime.
Kiraat was certain of that.
If there was no evidence today, then the task was to create evidence. I'm looking for more clues. He's not innocent, but he's smart. He may be hiding some illegal activity under his cover. We'll use that to take action against him. Bonita nodded in agreement. Her fear gradually eased. She could breathe more easily. Hearing her lover's voice and knowing her plan made Bonita feel stronger. Knowing she was being protected and cared for made her forget the fear she had felt in the face of Tatap's actions. Maybe. He only made the offer, but... Stop. I won't let him get away with anything. But Queen still needs more evidence. Yes, and I'll find a way. Don't let yourself get caught up in trouble or end up in a dangerous situation, physically or mentally. Understand? Bonita pressed her lips together. She wanted to help too. At least, if it was just gathering information without going against Kiraat's orders, it should be fine.
Right?
I understand. I'm almost there. See you soon. The moment they saw each other, Bonita was immediately enveloped in the warm embrace of her lover. Kiraat took her out to eat, talked with her, and didn't forget to warn her not to do anything reckless. And, of course, the brown envelope was immediately handed over to Kiraat. To Bonita, it felt like a hot potato. She didn't want to touch it. But to Kiraat, it was crucial evidence that could be used against the person who had been stalking Bonita. After all, what exists only in imagination is never recognized by the law. It was no surprise that he tried to mentally break Bonita, because that way, he left no trace that could be used to charge him. All of these were taken from a distance. I'll have someone with expertise check the camera angles, zoom levels, and verify whether he appeared in that area. As for dates and times, judging from your outfit, it was probably about 2 weeks ago. Kiraat spoke calmly while flipping through each photo slowly. Her composed demeanor put Bonita at ease. The way she handled things had clearly had a positive effect on her lover's mood. Queen, why do you think he suddenly left these things on my desk? Why didn't he continue hiding like before? Bonita asked because she truly didn't want to think about it herself. She didn't want to dig further into this mess, but clearly, she couldn't avoid it. Because he wants an identity now. Kiraat understood immediately. It might be difficult for them to identify someone like that because he always lived in the shadows, but that didn't mean his behavior and thoughts were impossible to predict. The reason someone who always hides in darkness suddenly steps into the light is that he wants Bonita to notice his presence, to know that he isn't an invisible shadow forever. That means we need to find more motives. I'm certain he'll reveal himself more clearly. After that remark, the two fell into silence until Bonita recounted everything that had just happened at Tatap's office, every word, every sentence he had said as she left. It was fair to say she told everything because she truly did. She couldn't bear the thought of Tatap doubting or belittling her love. As they talked in a restaurant not far from Bonita's place, the argument of a couple echoed over the soft background music. The clatter of dishes abruptly stopped. Many eyes turned toward the source of the sound, including Kiraat's and Bonita's. "I told you there's nothing going on. Why won't you believe me? Oh my God. If we can't trust each other, then let's just break up." Kiraat listened calmly while casually glancing at the photos until the couple walked out of the restaurant in opposite directions, leaving behind a chaotic mess on the table. Then she turned her gaze back to her lover. The couple had left, but their scene had left behind a story that made everyone whisper and think. A few thoughts flickered through her mind like a golf ball sliding perfectly into the hole. Everything seemed to fall neatly into place, as if it had been arranged beforehand. Kiraat's lips twitched slightly, and she smiled at an intriguing thought. Let's see if Tatap dares to reveal himself any further. "Babe, what's up? Why don't we argue?" The two had never argued in public. At most, they argued in private and quickly made up. But now, when they had to pretend to argue so outsiders could see, Bonita started to feel a little uneasy. "As I said, I'll be the one to start the noise first. If you try to walk away, I'll run after you and grab your hand. I'll pull gently, but you have to act as if I'm pulling you really hard, almost yanking you. Then I'll ask you about the photos. You'll loudly insist that you don't know anything. We'll struggle back and forth. And then you'll slap me." Bonita frowned at that. She wasn't sure if her lover was obsessed with TV dramas or novels to be able to come up with such a detailed script for them to act out in the middle of a crowd. "If you make that face, you have to fully commit to the role," Kiraat joked, trying to ease the tense atmosphere. "But why do I have to slap you?" Bonita asked softly. "To make it look real. What if someone records it? What if your mom sees the video of me slapping her daughter in public? I'd be doomed." "It's fine. I'll warn my mom in advance. But still, there's no need to slap you. I don't want to do that." Bonita spoke seriously. She could pretend to argue, but she didn't want to actually hit her lover. "Then don't hit too hard. Can you stop me if I go too far?" "Love, don't let me do things like that. You've slapped me in bed before, remember?" "Huh. That's a completely different matter." Bonita just wanted to pinch the person who had brought that up in the bedroom really hard. "Well, back then I was playing a rebellious maid who wouldn't obey you, so you slapped me in the mouth. Remember that?" "Yes." Bonita replied firmly, while Kiraat could only smile faintly. She had no intention of forcing her lover to do anything she didn't want. Otherwise, they might end up arguing for real. "All right, you don't have to slap me. You'll do whatever you want. That's how it should be, right? But we'll make a bet. If I make you slap me, I get a reward." "Dream on. I'm not slapping you." "Then consider it a challenge? And if I don't slap you, I'll get a reward too." Kiraat smiled. "Of course, my love." The little play that Kiraat had improvised in such a short time was a success. The one who had said they would never hit their lover couldn't resist the expressions and provocations, and ended up striking that beautiful face. Bonita was genuinely surprised by her own action, as she had unintentionally hit hard, with no restraint at all. After the slap, she could still feel the warmth in her palm. And because this moment went beyond what they had agreed on, outside their initial plan, the stunned expression from accidentally hurting her lover looked more real than ever. And the eyes of the people around. Bonita's palm was still trembling, her heart racing and chaotic. The image of Kiraat's pale skin flushed in a strange, almost frightening, way remained vivid in her mind. A small crack appeared at the corner of her lips, immediately noticeable. They separated like a couple who had just argued in a restaurant. And of course, countless stories, some true, some not, spread widely just as they had intended. "Babe, I heard people are talking about you arguing with your lover right in front of the building. Wearable stepped closer, asking with a worried expression and tone. The others in the office only dared to glance at each other, too timid to approach. Saratry, meanwhile, stood drinking water at a distance, smirking when their eyes accidentally met. So troublesome. Yes, she was a little upset because suddenly some photo ended up on my desk. I don't see how that's relevant at all. The young woman lied. Wearable muttered under her breath. She felt worried for her close younger sister. No matter how the people in this office acted, Bonita was always gentle and kind to her. Bonita bit her lip, silently apologizing to her lover in her heart for having to continue fabricating a story that was no longer part of their original plan, forced by circumstances. Queen suspected I had someone else, so we argued. She said that if it weren't for those photos, none of this would have happened. But I firmly said I didn't know anything. I don't even know if she was looking for trouble, because she's bored with me. Once again, Bonita told a blatant lie, crafting a story that made her look pitiful. And clearly, it worked. Just look at the worried and serious expression on Wearable's face. Seriously. Damn it. Bonita's words weren't soft, but not loud either. Yet as everyone began returning to the office after lunch, someone besides Wearable was sure to hear them. In an instant, the argument between Kiraat and Bonita, the misunderstanding in their relationship, spread throughout the office like a strong gust of wind sweeping through the space. So, what are you going to do, babe? I can say that since we've been working together, you've never encountered anything like this. You've always been so diligent. Wearable said, her expression full of concern, while Bonita shook her head, forcing a tired smile. I don't know either, Puan. I accidentally slapped Queen. I don't even know if she's angry enough to throw all my things out of the house now. Oh my God, why are you being so dramatic? How could you suddenly lose your temper like that? You got so mad you wanted to break up over just a silly photo? Exactly. I only showed her the photos because I didn't know who sent them. Yet she really believed I was secretly living another life, so someone sent those photos to expose me. So, what if you actually had to break up, babe? Bonita couldn't hold back the sadness at that question. Truly, she had never imagined a day when she would part from her lover. Sometimes, she had prepared herself for the pain that might come in the future. But she had never truly let herself think about it. She avoided the thought altogether, because she couldn't bear for that day to ever come. Without Kiraat by her side, she felt she could never survive in this vast, unkind world. Come on, don't cry. I won't ask again. Babe, stop. And this time, when Bonita cried, it was no longer acting. Just imagining a world where she had to live alone, without her lover, Kiraat, was enough to make her sob uncontrollably. Babe, Wearable called gently, feeling helpless. And the image of Bonita at that moment, every word, every action, even her tear-filled eyes, was captured by the young man hiding behind the curtain, silently observing inside the room. Just like a surveillance camera operating at full capacity, the corner of his mouth curved into a faint smile before the thick curtain was quietly drawn back, silent and unobtrusive, as if nothing had ever happened.